Well, certainly school threats are always something to take seriously, and tonight, no exception. And this is what we know right now. Ryan Osborne, who is a student at Agawam High School, was overheard making threats, including a bomb threat to the school, as well as possibly shooting other students at a pep rally that's scheduled to take place on November 21st. When the hundreds of thousands of visitors come to concession stands at the Big E this year, they'll be able to take a sip or wipe their face with something that won't exist a couple months from now. Well, if you take a look at the landscape behind me, and trust me, it's a view worth taking in, well, it's about as green as the shirt I'm wearing right now, but pretty soon you're going to see a lot more of these little guys, leaves falling off, blowing away in the wind. Foliage season is almost here, but the weather has raised a few question marks. With the dry August and September that we saw, people are wondering, is it going to spoil the leaf peeping season? When you're driving around town in your normal car, you already have a catalytic converter, but diesel buses normally don't. After the installation, though, it'll be a different story. When all your memories have been washed away, what do? Do you give up? Do you stay and rebuild? Or do you move on and make a new life for yourself? Well, if you're Hilda Libashevsky, you do whatever it takes to start over. And finally, 2 years later, she's found a place to call home.
It's terrible, the feeling that you get from just sitting there and listening to that and staying awake, and you don't know whether you're going to live or die. You really don't.
Those are the nightmares Hilda Libashevsky lives with every day after losing everything but her own life to Hurricane Katrina.
A slab. That's all that was left on my home, was a slab. There was no furniture, no clothes, no anything. It was just a slab.
Living in Biloxi, Mississippi, she experienced some of the worst of what the infamous hurricane brought to the Gulf Coast.
Their home is being left that way, and they have no place to go, nothing to do, nothing to eat. They have little kids, and they don't know what to do.
What Hilda did was hit the road.
I slept in my car. Then I went to my daughter's. Then I went to my sister's. Then I went to my brother's.
Her family, and fortunately her car, haven't let her down.
I've slept in that car. I've done everything in that car, believe me. It's just been the best friend.
2 years later, she's found a new home in Ludlow, but it will never be the same. How does this compare to what you were living with before?
Well, it doesn't, because I had a bedroom set. I had everything before, like everybody else does. It's normal, you know, but this is something you have to live with. That's just the way it is.
But her friends and neighbors aren't letting her go it alone.
They've given me some canned goods. They gave me a few towels. Things like that, you know, just to be able to exist every day.
And in the end, Hilda has a remarkably positive outlook after all she's been through.
I'm going to call this home and try to rebuild it the best I can. That's all I can do. I play each day as it comes now. That's the way that it goes. There's nothing else you can do in life, you know.
Well, during her journey, Hilda experienced not one, but 2 strokes. And doctors say they believe they were related to the stress involved with the staggering devastation created by Hurricane Katrina. She has a difficult time getting around, but she keeps a positive frame of mind. Live in the studio, Eric Fisher, ABC40.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in a fishbowl, but here you actually can tap on the glass and feed the animals, so it's good.
Don't feel bad for Chris O'Connor. He thoroughly enjoys his very visible position at New England's oldest brew pub, even the cleaning. But whatever you do, don't call him a brew master.
To me, a brew master is a big German guy with a handlebar mustache and a lab coat. That's not me.
Chris is just a hophead, a guy who loves watching his craft flow from start to finish.
It's a whole pipeline. It goes from grain, this is the base product that goes into every beer that we make, to the mash tun, to the kettle, and then it goes into the fermenter, and then it goes into the serving and conditioning. Each one of these tanks holds an entire batch of beer.
Many wonder about the secrets of his malted masterpiece. Is it written on the walls?
These are all actually, well, I'd like to say they're secret recipes, but they're not.
Guess not. Well, maybe it's the cleverly named brews.
I try to mix it up a little bit, try to make it interesting, a little tongue-in-cheek, a little double entendre helps.
But it's most likely something simpler.
It's about really just giving the people what they want.
Ignoring trends, concentrating on what they do best, and a strong passion for the art of brewing. That's how you make a drink worth coming back for.
I always look forward to that first pint out of that out of the hundreds of gallons of beer that I make, that first 16 ounces, like what is it going to do and how am I going to react to that? And then in turn, how is, the public going to react to it?
In a city known for diversity, there's over 35 styles of drafts you can tap into. And if you need any more motivation to stop in,
people fall in love here at the Northampton Brewery. And actually, it's here at the Northampton Brewery, in the corner of the bar, right over there, that I met my now wife for the very first time.
Cheers to that. In Northampton, Eric Fisher, ABC40. A showing of American pride, spirit, and musical celebration coursed through the streets Sunday. But if you follow the procession through this archway onto the football field at Chicopee High, the day probably meant something more.
We are told that there is no greater love than to serve one's country or lay down one's life for one's friend. If that is true, then we are surrounded with an abundance of love here today.
The man that laid down his life was Captain John W. Maloney, who passed 2 years ago while serving in Iraq. But now his name will grace the scoreboard at Chicopee High for years to come. For the many family and friends in attendance, it was a fitting memorial.
He loved sports, he loved football, loved baseball, and he'd get a kick out of this. He'd love it.
Kind of ironic because he used to read all the plaques in town, and he would be absolutely amazed that he has a plaque.
Complete with a flyover by the National Guard, the event was an emotional one for Maloney's widow, Michelle.
I'll bring the kids back every year. It'll be something as they grow up, they'll, see what everybody else thought of him also. I mean, he's always been our hero, but now he's other people's too.
The family says they're overwhelmed by the support the local community has shown. On this weekend of remembrance, it wasn't difficult to see the gratitude bursting from everyone in attendance.
We celebrate your dedication. Welcome home. We honor your courage. Welcome home. We are your grateful nation. Welcome home, welcome home, welcome home.
In Chicopee, Eric Fisher, ABC40.